Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about flash steam.
Flash steam.
You might not have heard of it, but I think it's pretty fascinating. And we've got some interesting material to go over from Forbes Marshall, Velsteam, ADCA, Thorn Engineering.
Lots of companies are involved in this.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of try to figure out what it is and why we should care.
Well, it's really interesting because it's kind of like that hidden money in your wallet.
Uh-huh.
You know, you find a couple bucks, you're like, oh, I forgot I had this.
Yeah, and then you get to buy yourself a coffee.
Exactly, or a donut or something like that.
Exactly. So that's what we're hoping to find today in this deep dive into flash steam.
Sounds good.
So to start off, can we just kind of get a definition of what flash steam is?
So imagine you've got a pot of water boiling on the stove.
Okay.
And you see that steam coming off.
Yeah.
That steam hits the lid and it condenses. And it forms those little water droplets.
Right, those little beads of water.
Exactly. Now, that condensate still has a lot of the energy that the steam had.
It's not just water.
It's not just water. It's like energy-packed water. And when you change the pressure on that water, some of it will suddenly flash back into steam. And that, my friend, is flash steam.
So you're saying it's kind of like that condensate is indecisive?
A little bit.
It wants to be steam.
It wants to be steam, but it's under pressure. So it's water, but then you release the pressure, and boom, it's steam again.
Got it. So pressure is really important here.
Pressure is key.
And I think you were mentioning like the example of like boiling water at higher altitudes.
Right. Have you ever noticed how water boils faster
in
the mountains?
Yeah.
That's because the air pressure is lower up there. So the water needs less heat to reach its boiling point and turn into steam.
Okay.
It's the same idea with flash steam.
So lower pressure means?
Easier for it to flash.
Easier for it to turn back to steam.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess the question that's probably on everyone's minds now is, why should we even bother capturing this flash steam?
Well, because it's essentially free energy. It's a byproduct of processes you're already running. So if you can capture it and put it back to work, you're saving money.
So we're not talking about just like pennies here.
No.
Is this something that could actually make a difference for companies?
Absolutely. Forbes Marshall, one of the companies we looked at, they say that their customers who recover flash steam save on average about 1.5% on their fuel costs every year.
Annually.
Yeah, which might not sound like a lot.
Yeah.
But over time,
it adds up.
It really adds up. And it's not just about the energy savings.
Right.
They've also helped their customers save millions of liters of water.
So it's good for the environment.
It's good for the environment, good for the bottom line. It's a win-win.
I like win-win situations.
Me too.
So we know now that this is like a really valuable thing to do.
Right.
How do we actually go about capturing flash steam?
So there are a couple of different ways you can do it.
All right.
One way is to use something called a flash tank.
A flash tank?
Yeah, basically it's like a special container where the pressure is just right to let that flash steam separate from the remaining condensate.
So we're kind of controlling the environment within this tank to encourage that flashing.
Yeah. And then you can collect the flash steam from the top of the tank.
So it like rises to the top.
Exactly.
So it's like separating.
Okay.
What happens to the water at the bottom?
You can pump that back to the boiler.
Oh, okay.
Or use it in other parts of the process.
We're not wasting it.
Not wasting a drop.
Okay, so that's flash tanks. Now, you said there was another way?
The other way is to use a heat exchanger.
A heat exchanger.
Yeah, and this works a little differently. Instead of directly collecting the flash steam, you use its heat to warm up other fluids.
So it's indirectly using. Okay, I see.
So you can imagine like two pipes running side by side.
Okay.
One has the flash steam, the other has cold water.
Okay.
The heat from the steam transfers to the water.
Without them mixing.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and you can use this to preheat boiler feed water or to warm up air for drying, or even for sterilization.
So it sounds like there's a lot of different applications.
There's a lot of potential.
For both flash tanks and heat exchangers.
It really depends on what you're trying to do.
So it's not one size fits all?
Definitely not.
Okay, so we've got these different options for capturing flash steam. But how do we actually know if it's worth it?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, for a company.
Right. We need to talk about cost-benefit analysis.
Okay.
And that's something we can dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
So let's look at some real-world examples of how companies are using flash steam.
Sounds good.
One industry that's really benefiting is food processing.
Food processing.
Yeah, they use a ton of steam for cooking, sterilizing,
right,
cleaning, all sorts of things.
Makes sense.
So they end up with a lot of condensate.
Which means lots of potential flash steam.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Thornton Engineering, this company we mentioned before, they worked with a food processing plant that wanted to cut down on energy costs.
Always a good goal.
Right.
So how did they do it?
Well, they did a whole analysis of the plant's steam system, and they found a bunch of places where they could recover flash steam.
So, like, were they using flash tanks, heat exchangers?
Both, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they had a lot of condensate coming from the cooking process.
Okay.
Perfect for a flash tank.
Okay.
So they installed one, collected the condensate, separated out the flash steam, and then piped that steam right back into the cooking process.
So they're using their own waste steam
to
power their processes.
Brilliant. Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But they didn't stop there.
Right.
They also used a heat exchanger to preheat the water going into the boilers.
So they were using both methods.
Yeah, they were really maximizing their energy savings.
And did it work?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what kind of results are we talking about?
They cut their natural gas use by over 10%.
Wow, 10%? That's a lot.
It's huge.
So I'm seeing why more and more industries are really looking into flash steam.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah. And it's not just food processing.
Okay.
Breweries are getting in on the action, too.
Breweries now. That's something I can get behind.
Right.
So how are they using flash steam?
Well, they use a lot of steam, too, you know?
Yeah.
For heating the mash, boiling the wort.
Makes sense.
Sterilizing equipment.
Okay.
So Thornton Engineering, they helped a craft brewery that was struggling with high energy costs.
I bet.
So they put in a flash steam recovery system to capture the steam from the brewing and use it to preheat the water coming in.
So it's like they're brewing beer with the leftover energy from the previous batch.
Exactly. Talk about sustainable brewing.
That's fantastic.
And they saw some great results, too.
Okay.
Lower energy bills.
Good.
And a smaller environmental footprint.
So it's good for business and good for the planet.
It's a win-win-win.
I like those.
Me too.
So we've seen flash steam in action in food processing.
Yeah.
And breweries. But let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
And talk about choosing the right technology.
Okay.
We've talked about flash tanks.
Right.
And heat exchangers.
Right.
But how do companies decide which one to use?
Well, it depends on a few things.
Okay.
Like how much flash steam they have.
Okay.
What temperatures and pressures they need.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all?
Nope.
Okay.
It's all about finding the right fit.
Okay. And that's where the experts come in.
Exactly. You need someone who understands these systems.
Right.
And can design one that works best.
So we've covered a lot.
We have
about flash steam.
Yeah.
From what it is to how it's used.
Right.
But there's one more thing I want to touch on.
Okay.
Making sure it makes financial sense.
Yes. The all-important cost-benefit analysis.
Exactly. So let's dig into that in our final part. Yeah. Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle the financial side of things.
Right, the numbers.
Exactly. How can companies really know if flash steam recovery is a good investment for them?
Well, the first thing you want to look at is something called the payback period.
Payback period.
Yeah. Basically, it's how long it takes for the savings to pay off the cost of the system.
So the faster the payback?
The better.
Right, makes sense.
Exactly.
What else should companies be thinking about?
Well, another important metric is the return on investment, or ROI.
ROI. Okay, and what is that exactly?
It's basically a way of measuring how much profit you make for every dollar you invest.
So a higher ROI is obviously...
We're profitable, yeah.
More profitable, right. Got it. So payback period and ROI, those are two big ones.
Definitely.
But I imagine there are other costs to consider too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You need to think about things like maintenance costs.
Like repairs and upkeep.
Exactly, and how long the equipment's going to last.
Right, because if you're constantly having to fix it...
It's going to eat into your savings.
Exactly. So it sounds like there's a lot to factor in.
There is, but it's definitely worth it to do your homework.
Right. And I think that's where those engineering calculators come in handy.
Exactly. They can help you estimate the costs and savings.
So it takes some of the guesswork out of it.
Exactly. It gives you some hard numbers to work with.
So to wrap things up, what's the most important thing for companies to remember when it comes to the financial side of flash steam recovery?
I would say look at the big picture.
Okay.
Don't just focus on the initial cost.
Right.
Think about the long-term savings, the environmental benefits, all of it.
So it's a holistic approach.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
Flash steam recovery.
Yeah.
It's not just about saving energy. It's about doing business smarter, and creating a more sustainable future.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of flash steam.
It's been fun.
It has. We've learned a lot.
We have.
And we hope you have too. Until next time, keep those energy-saving ideas flowing.